friends. Welcome back to Chapter Chumps, a reading podcast where three guys read a book and then talk about it. Today on the podcast, we are going to be discussing the ending, chapters 21 through 26 of JD Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. I am your host, Connor. I am joined, as ever, by my two co-hosts, Connor and Josh. Welcome back. Sucks that we had to miss a week. I'm not gonna point any fingers. It's not a blame game.
So close to reading the whole book in one go.
The thing I was thinking was like even less about okay, so last week, just like a day or two before we were set to discuss, I had read the first two chapters. So I read chapters 21 and 22 when Holden's talking with Phoebe. And then Connor was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do it. And it's like, yeah, all good. So I stopped. Didn't pick it back up until today, where I'm like, okay, I finally got to read these last, four chapters. And I was like kind of worried that I don't know, that like I kind of lost my groove, that we had like a groove going, and I was like, oh, I kind of jump back in and like, reacclimate to being in Holden's head. But as I started reading and I got closer and closer to the end and like wanting to find out like what happens. I did find myself pretty drawn into it. Josh, you kind of did one of these. So I take it you did not do all your reading today.
No, I did. I never do the reading the day we podcast. I always do it at latest the day before.
True. And is that what you did?
No, I read it, I want to say last Sunday.
Oh, I see.
Maybe it was last Tuesday, actually. It was a day or two before we normally podcast, because I expected us to read, or to discuss that week, because we were very excited about getting everything done in one uninterrupted section of time, and that I wasn't too surprised, but I was also mildly disappointed. But thankfully I was taking notes. I was actually reviewing my notes before we logged on today.
Yeah, good. And Connor, I take it you did all your reading today, right?
Yeah, I woke up and did my reading, and really loved it. It didn't feel like I mean, the skipping a week thing to me didn't. I mean, I don't think it really impacted my enjoyment or my like remembering anything. I kind of just like jumped in and it was fine, and I really enjoyed reading these last few chapters.
I just think you're both insane for wanting to read more pages per week, like we discussed last over the summer, and then just continue to hold off to do your readings until literally hours before we're supposed to podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even really want to read more per week. I'm fine with it, but that's not my choice.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel like a lot though today, Connor, because that means you read nearly 80 pages in a sitting.
Yes,
it's a good chunk right there.
Yeah, I know it didn't feel like a lot at all, really.
Wow. Okay. And what else? You may notice that I'm uncharacteristically drinking a cup of tea tonight.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up.
I wanted to get out in front of it, be like,
but there's a little something in that tea. It's a hottie toddy. It's a hot toddy. Hottie toddy.
No.
It's a tea bag.
Yeah, it's just good old tea. Because I'm kind of getting over a bit of a cold, so I feel good to talk for like the next 5 hours or whatever we do. But
I hope it's not that long. I have to work tomorrow and play D&D, so one of
Wow.
those is more important than the other. I won't say which.
Wait, you're playing D&D tonight?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Oh, nice. Wow. How long are your D&D sessions usually?
3 or 4 hours, depending on what's going on in the game.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
is impressive considering that we're spread across like half the planet. So
Right.
got some people in Europe, some people on the West Coast. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's got to be a challenge to find a time that works for everyone.
we somehow managed that.
You're going to have to do an in-person session one of these days. You can all meet up in like Minnesota.
I don't know any of their real names. It's a completely online group, so we all use screen names and
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
yeah. I don't think I've seen any of their real faces, and they don't
Meet up
seen
in
mine.
Budapest or something.
Wow. Feels very cyberpunk in a way. It's like,
In a way, yeah. Maybe not Johnny Mnemonic cyberpunk, but it's
no.
Josh, how do you know they're real? They could just be AI personalities.
I mean, we talk. There's audio.
Yeah, that doesn't prove anything these days.
Yeah, not anymore.
No, there's definitely tells you can pick up with AI. So
Sometimes.
You know,
Um,
Connor he's obviously being a bit of a little twat right now, but it is kind of it is kind of crazy. He doesn't like when I call him that. Sorry. It is kind of crazy. Eventually you can get I'm sure like AI companions complicated enough, probably very soon. You could do a D&D campaign that way with a bunch of just like different chatbots, effectively.
I don't know. I think people have already tried that. It's not great.
Well, not now, but within the next 10 years, absolutely.
within
I
the
don't
next
know.
year or two, I think.
No, AI's like slowing down. Not like the bubble things, but like the progress has been slowing down, and they're just shoving it in more and more places to try to justify it.
I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I tell you what, every time I try to Google something,
Well, the problem is you're trying to Google something.
should
You're
I
trying...
DuckDuckGo?
I've been using DuckDuck. Yeah, I've been using DuckDuckGo for at least a year and a half now, just exclusively.
Yeah, you got to use Bing.
I think DuckDuckGo is based off of Bing, actually.
Oh, wow. Bing's come back in a Bing way.
Yeah, well, ever since the death of Chandler Bing, there's been a resurgence.
Yeah.
Has been the same since Jeeves left.
That's right.
I have a lot of things I need to ask him.
We've talked about Ask Jeeves before. That's for some reason that always comes up every now and then. Like every 8 to
I never
14
actually
months.
used Ask Jeeves. That was just one of those websites I knew about but never used.
There was a time when Ask Jeeves was the Google competitor.
Yeah.
Where it was the only other one that was like viable.
That and Yahoo.
Yeah, but I kind of feel like there was like Ask Jeeves was up there, and now it's a joke.
Yeah, I mean, if people even know about it.
Mm-hmm.
If they even know about Ask Jeeves to make jokes about it.
One day, Jeeves will be revived as an AI chatbot, and then Josh, finally, you'll be able to ask him all those questions you've been dying to ask him.
And you could even play a D&D campaign with him.
Yeah, that would be fun.
No,
Imagine playing with
I'm not going
Jeeves.
to do that.
What kind of character do you think he would be? You think he would be an orc?
Elf.
An elf?
I think he'd be a halfling cleric.
A bard? A halfling
Could be
what?
a bard.
Cleric.
I thought you said a halfling clanker.
No, I wouldn't use such a word on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks.
Especially when talking about an AI chatbot. You kidding me?
I know. It's just unbecoming.
Someone's going to make that fucking robo dragon, and then I'm gonna be turned into goo. You know?
Roku Spastic.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. You know what I'm
Exactly.
talking about? You know what I'm talking about?
Exactly.
Just because I said one fucking thing on a podcast one time.
It's good. I mean, they're coming for us
Yep.
eventually.
Yep. And you know
They'll
what?
travel back in time and kill us.
By the time they figure it out, I'll be dead anyways.
Well, yes, but then they'll travel back in time and they'll kill us even earlier than we would have been dead. You know?
Oh god. Yeah, that's scary.
Yeah.
It's like you want to be dead, and then someone just keeps killing you before you can even die.
Yeah. It's a really tough situation. It's
Yeah.
It's like I thought I already went through this.
Someone should make a movie out of that. I feel like people have, sort of. That's almost what Ryan Johnson's Looper was, but
Yeah, I was gonna say Looper.
not really.
Bruce Willis and
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
I was gonna say Jake Gyllenhaal, but that's obvious.
And
That's
you would have been very close.
Oh.
Yeah. It's crazy. I remember watching Looper like in anticipation to The Last Jedi.
Really?
Yeah, being like, because I hadn't seen it, and so when Ryan Johnson was set to direct The Last Jedi,
oh, that's a connection. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, oh, like what's this guy known for? And he was known for directing one episode of Breaking Bad everyone loves and one episode of Breaking Bad everyone hates, which is telling. It's kind of very telling, actually. And then and he made Looper, and I watched Looper, and I gotta tell you, I don't think Looper's good. I watched that fucking movie. I thought it like kind of sucked. It's a great idea. Oh my god, maybe I am talking about The Last Jedi. It's a great idea, but boy, it could have used another pass. The Last Jedi is better than Looper, though. Just throwing that out there.
It seems like you've turned a little bit on The Last Jedi.
No. It probably does sound that way when I put it all out there like that. I've turned on the sequel trilogy, which unfortunately,
of course. Well, I don't. Did you ever turn? I mean, did you turn on it, or have you always felt that way? Really, since its completion.
I was pretty on board. Well, since its completion, absolutely. But I mean, like initially, like Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, I was on board, and I did have some misgivings about The Last Jedi, even though I think it's better. Oh my god, we can't start talking about Star Wars.
Yeah,
I think The Last Jedi is better than The Force Awakens. I think it's easily the best of the sequel trilogy. I don't have any of the fucking racist, sexist hangups that like humongous toxic portions of the fandom do. I think that the movie could have been better, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. I don't know. There you go.
Now, Connor, Looper or The Force Awakens?
The Force Awakens.
Looper or The Rise of Skywalker?
Looper.
All right.
I enjoyed Rise of Skywalker in the theaters just for the ride of it, but I think that's the only Star Wars movie I've only actually seen once.
Oh my god, you haven't rewatched it either, Josh?
Nope.
Wow.
I've rewatched the Clone Wars movie.
Yeah, that's saying something.
Which might be relevant since a character from that might show up in Mandalorian and Grogu, but...
Rhoda the Hutt?
Probably.
Or Zero the Hutt? He was in the Clone Wars movie.
No, I think you got it right with Rhoda. Rhoda.
Everyone keeps saying Rhoda. They're like, oh, yeah. They got who's that guy? Jeremy Allen White or something to play Rhoda the Hutt instead of having
Rhoda.
So I'm actually currently rewatching
a great
Clone
Bob
Wars.
Pollard song.
Yeah,
I'm watching the 90s Batman cartoon.
Yes.
And I got to the point where the art style completely changes to be more like the Superman cartoon. And Batgirl's in it a lot more now, and they apparently changed the voice actress, and she sounds a lot like Ahsoka Tano in the early Clone Wars to me.
Oh.
I think it's about a 5 to 10 year difference between those shows, so it's not the same actress, but it's surprising how similar it is.
Yeah. I mean, you're probably right that it's not the same actress, but it could be because
They could be
people voiced the
clones.
same characters for a long time.
It could be clones.
Well,
Connor.
something I've really been enjoying in
Could be clones.
Batman the Animated Series was just how many voice actors I was recognizing, because it's all the the characters we grew up with, but also it's just like there's a lot of Star Trek alum in there that I was not expecting, like LeVar Burton, the guy who played Odo that I can't think of his name. The one that really stood out to me was Red Claw was played by Catherine Janeway, Kate Mulgrew.
And we all know who plays the Joker.
Mark Hamill.
The Joker, Mr. Skywalker himself.
Yep. So anyway,
Pretty cool.
I'm the
We have
Joker,
something-
baby.
People say he's one of the best Jokers too.
Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah, it's an iconic voice. It just is.
I just watched The Shining for the first time,
Oh, nice.
like a week and a half ago or something, and
Holy
just
sincerity.
watching that, I was just like, man, Jack Nicholson was born to play the Joker,
Yeah.
and he did obviously, but I was like, wow, his face is just like that's the Joker.
Yeah.
Got a few people who are born to play the Joker, obviously. Jared Leto, number one.
Yeah.
Just joking.
Yeah.
I'm a bit of a Joker too, if you couldn't tell.
No, you are. You
Yeah.
are. Jared Leto reminds me, Josh, did you see Tron Ares? Are you a Tron guy?
No, I've never seen Tron.
Yeah.
Like any of the Trons.
Oh, right. Okay.
You seem like you would have.
Oh, it does seem like it's up my alley. I just never got around to watching it. The closest I've really been to Tron has been there's a piece of music that got included in a video game album that I have. And I rode the Tron coaster when I went to Disney in January, and it's actually a really fun coaster. But that's about as much as I really know about Tron.
Nice. Nice. Well, all right then. Well, we're not here to talk about Star Wars or Tron or the Joker. We could keep talking about any one of those things if we
Absolutely.
wanted. Joker, anyone? Okay. No, we're here to talk about the ending of The Catcher in the Rye. And what an ending it was. In this episode, we're going to be discussing the different chapters. We're going to talk about our thoughts on the book as a whole, and we're going to give it a ranking. So, look forward to all that. Part of me wonders how much there is to talk about. It feels like a lot, and it also kind of feels like just one big thing.
Yeah, we've said that every episode though. So I mean, I don't know. I think it's up to us really how long we want to go.
It's up to us. And someone said something about 5 hours before. So if
Someone
you really
said 5
want to,
hours. That should be our minimum.
yeah. So, I mean, I'm fine with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about you guys, but
Totally.
all right. Well,
All Josh has got to do tomorrow is do D&D. So
that's right. He doesn't.
I said
even,
work and
He doesn't even
D&D.
have a job. He doesn't. This guy doesn't even have a job.
well, he's a professional D&D player.
Connor,
Fucking wish.
I told you, if you keep calling him that, he's never going to get out of his basement. All right? Come on.
Does this look like a basement to you?
It's a very large one. It's a finished basement.
Yeah. I've seen your basement, Josh. It's fine.
I just don't know
seen-
how to respond right now.
I've seen
Sorry.
rats down there. I've seen mice dead rats down there.
Yeah.
Mice. It was mice, not rats. They've been dealt with.
It was big mice though. It was like
Oh,
rat-sized mice.
Yeah.
Not
mouse.
rat-sized.
Rat mouse.
Rat mouse. Yeah, like a cat dog, like a cat dog spin-off. Rat mouse. Rat mouse. That's a great idea.
I don't think so.
Right, the Cartoon Network or
That was a
Nickelodeon, I
Nickelodeon
guess.
show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Maybe we should we should start a bidding war between Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon.
I mean, Nick doesn't know what's good for them. They can't.
No,
They don't know how to steer that ship.
no, they don't. I mean, it might even
Didn't
be an
Cartoon
Adult
Network go
Swim
under?
show.
Yeah.
It might even be an Adult Swim show.
Rat Mouse.
Yeah.
Rat Mouse. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Lone in the world, little rat mouse.
Yeah.
All right. Wow. All right. So chapter 21 starts. So Holden, he has this plan to sneak into his house because he wants to go talk with old Phoebe. Sounds like it's going to go horribly. Like, you hear that Holden's cooking up this plan, and you're like, you could hear us talking about the end of last episode. We're like, it does not sound like this is going to go well. Actually, all in all, not that bad. He does sneak in there successfully. He does end up talking with Phoebe, and Phoebe is excited to see him. So they talk for a while. That continues on into chapter 22, where they continue their conversation, and it's a lot about like Phoebe asking Holden what he wants to do, because Phoebe's also very perceptive. She picks up on that Holden's back earlier than usual and at a very strange time, and she's like, you got kicked out of Pensy. Dad's gonna kill you. And so like Phoebe's like asking him, what does he want to do? And it's, in some ways Phoebe's also kind of mature for her age. And this is where we get into Holden saying that he wants to be the catcher in the rye. So we'll should come back to that moment and talk about it.
Roll credits.
That's right. And then, let me take a sip of tea, jeez. All right, sorry. And then Holden says he wants to go call his old English teacher from Elkton, Mr. Antolini. Chapter 23, Holden's mom comes home, and Holden hides in the closet. Phoebe takes the heat for like the cigarettes that Holden was smoking, and Phoebe gives Holden some cash that she got for Christmas, because Holden's like totally broke right now, and he kind of breaks down, he cries, and Phoebe's comforting him. And Holden insists that Phoebe takes his red hunter's cap as a gift. So he leaves. Chapter 24, Holden goes to Antolini's. They have a whole conversation, and Antolini is talking like at Holden, kind of like the professor in chapter 2. Feels like sort of a mirrored kind of thing here. Yep. About how Holden needs to figure out his direction in life, or he's heading for this horrible fall. Feels very ominous. And it's like Mr. Antolini's like trying to reach out and help Holden, it seems. But then after Holden falls asleep at his place, he wakes up on the couch to Antolini caressing his head. And Holden leaves in this fluster. It's like immediately. He's like immediately like, this is fucking weird. I'm going. He leaves. Chapter 25.
Oops.
This is like our last full-length chapter here. And it definitely seems to be the longest chapter of the book. So Holden leaves Antolini's apartment. It's dawn. He takes a quick nap at Grand Central. And then he decides he's going to leave. Like, leave. He's going to... He has this extended fantasy of, like, hitchhiking and going out west and building a log cabin and getting a job filling up gas or cars at the gas pump and pretending to be a blind, deaf mute. And he believes this fantasy so much that he goes to Phoebe's school to leave her a note saying to meet him at the museum during her lunch so he can return her money and see her one last time before he goes. So she turns up with a suitcase of her own and wants to go with him. Holden says she can't go, and he gets really pissed too in this moment. And he's also throughout this chapter, he's like been feeling dizzy. He passes out at one point. So he's like very like he's beyond running on fumes. Yeah, I mean he is not operating at like any level of like normalcy right now. And anyways, Phoebe gets she's like she's crying. She's crying. She wants to go with him. Holden gets all pissed. He goes, puts her suitcase away, and he's like, hey, come on, you got to go back to school. But she refuses. She says she's never going back. And so Holden's like, all right, what if we just go to the zoo? Like we'll just have a day of it, and then you put all this nonsense behind you, right? And so they go to the zoo. After that, Phoebe kind of warms back up to him a bit. They go to Central Park, and there's this carousel. Phoebe's like, oh, I'm too old to go on the carousel. And Holden's like, no, go. Come on, you got to get on the carousel. And she goes on. She has a great time, and Holden's watching her on the carousel, and it starts pouring rain. And he mentions that he feels happy watching her. Chapter 26, our last chapter, is Holden kind of like coming back to the framing device of the whole story. And it's like kind of back in the present day now. It seems like he's in a hospital because he ended up being, really sick. And DB's there. And it's kind of just Holden reflecting on the whole story that he's just finished up recounting, and saying like, don't ever tell anybody anything, because you'll just end up missing them, and we'll get more into what that means. I feel like in terms of like the plot, not a lot really happens in the last chapter. It's just 2 pages, but it does feel like maybe it lends a different context to the rest of the story there. So you might be able to tell, I think, as I'm like going through and talking, my throat is a little bit sore. But that's kind of what we got here for our summation. Connor, do you want to start us off and maybe just how did you feel finishing this? And I don't know. I think, how did you feel? And then maybe we'll want to jump back. We probably should start with this conversation with Phoebe. But
Yeah.
what did you think?
I really did enjoy it. It's ends up being quite sentimental and emotional for me, and it kind of made me really realize like, wow, I still think this might be one of my favorite books. I don't know. I mean, it does feel like, even though not a lot happens, like a lot does kind of happen, and I'm trying not to miss anything that I wanted to talk about. But I mean, starting from the beginning where we are, we left Holden. He was at the park, like freezing his ass off, and then he snuck into his home, and I mean that the whole section he has with talking to Phoebe in her room is really, really sweet. And she knows right away that he's been kicked out of Pensy. She can tell right away. She's very smart. She's a smart kid. And yeah, I mean, it culminates obviously in Holden breaking down when she insists on giving him her Christmas money. It's like a very sweet and like pure connection he has, like the only kind of real substantial connection he has with somebody else really that he feels like understands him. So it's really nice to after him spending the whole book talking about Phoebe to finally have them talk face to face there, and then you can kind of tell that that connection, that feeling is mutual when Phoebe covers for Holden with the smoking. It's like a really funny, like it's funny to imagine this little girl just like, yeah, I just had like one cigarette and then I threw it out. Like it's
Right. And the
like
mom buys
like
it too.
the mom
She's not
buys it.
like,
Yeah,
"What? You were smoking?"
yeah,
She's like, "You know I don't like that."
yeah. So it's very funny. Yeah, we get some more insight into his parents, too, like a little bit. They're at a party in Norwalk, Connecticut, which
Mhm.
is pretty cool. I've been there, so I know what that's all about. They're probably at this the District Music Hall, which is a
Yeah.
venue. But they probably were there, probably seeing. They probably saw Jeff Tweedy from Wilco because he just played there. So that's probably what they were doing, if I
Yeah.
had to guess.
Makes sense to me.
Um, yeah, I mean, and then it just goes on from there. The Mr. Antolini thing was like the
Well, wait,
one.
wait, 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 wait.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Before we talk about Mr. Antolini, can we talk more about Phoebe in this beginning
Yeah,
part,
please.
or is there a point you want to make that I'm interrupting? I'm sorry.
No. I'm just saying that's the one thing in my head that I've been like waiting for it to happen. That's like the one thing the big thing that I remember that I was like, oh god, and they're just kind of like dreading the moment coming up. And
Gotcha.
yeah, but yeah, let's talk about Phoebe first.
Yeah. And I didn't remember that at all. I didn't remember anything from this ending at all.
Neither did I.
uh, there's a couple things I want to talk about with Phoebe in these first two chapters, and I'm just going to go through some notes that I took. I agree that Holden and Phoebe have like a very genuine and sweet connection, but I had felt like in chapter 21, the meeting doesn't go exactly how Holden had envisioned it either. Like I had thought that Phoebe was going to be like really surprised or scared or shocked, but she's like super excited. And and Holden keeps trying to like, get her to calm down. He's like, shh, not so loud, he's like, and he's trying to like get her to talk about because he's like looking for information. He's like, when are mom and dad going to be back and all this, and Phoebe's just like going and going, and it's funny, but also it sort of made me think about how he described Carl Luce before, where like he wants to have the conversation that he wants to have, and I feel like Holden's been thinking about meeting back up with Phoebe and talking with her and stuff, and I feel like Phoebe is almost like this I don't know, this force of nature or something. Like the idea of Phoebe that Holden has in his head is not quite the same as what Phoebe really is. And it's not something that bothers Holden because he loves Phoebe, and he makes all of these comments about like, how endearing she is to him. but yeah, I don't know. And Phoebe has a lot of weird, funny quirks, just like Holden, and you could see like how they would bond. And the one thing that jumped out at me is um, Phoebe keeps saying "and everything" instead of "and all." Like Holden always says "and all that," or "and all," and Phoebe says "and everything." And it's like you can kind of imagine how Holden would have like influenced her speaking and all that. Like just the fact that they have like similar kind of quirks. And then like later when her mom asks her how the dinner was, and she was like, lousy. And the mom's like, why was it lousy? I got you this awesome, the food's supposed to be delicious. She's like, no, the food was great, but they were breathing on me all the time. And I'm like, that's what Holden would do too.
That's Holden coded.
Yeah.
Yep.
You fixate on that one thing that like destroys it. It doesn't matter that the food's delicious because this fucker's breathing on you the whole time. Really funny that Phoebe acts that way. And she's just a really cool character to introduce at the end. Like,
yeah,
so many characters in this book, sometimes are only around for a chapter or less, and it's just like these series of like vignettes. It's like a revolving door, but Phoebe sticks around from her introduction here until the end. And I think the book was better for it. Like, it's good to have, someone else for Holden to kind of like bounce off of. So
yeah,
I really like their dynamic.
I do too, and I that's interesting what you said about kind of comparing.
Hey, real quick, I need to go on mute. Real quick, I need to take care of Nova.
All
But I'm
right.
still listening. You guys keep going.
No worries. Yeah, comparing what Holden was doing to what his friend was doing earlier. I didn't think about that. I just kind of, and I don't really, I feel like Phoebe almost was just as Holden described, but I mean, pretty much because she is so much like him that that's kind of why he, why she is such a someone he keeps going back to. It was just a very to me, it was a very familiar little sister, older brother relationship. Immediately, that I really identified with. Yeah, and the other funny things are Holden looked through her notebooks, and she would sign it like Phoebe Weatherfield Caulfield, and that's not her real middle name. It's her middle name is Josephine. So yeah, there's like a lot of like little quirks that she has that are really endearing. And yeah, I mean, she obviously shows a genuine concern for Holden and his tendency to flunk out of school, and she seems kind of more concerned for him than he is for himself, which I guess is a running theme as well.
Yeah.
For people in Holden's life.
Yeah. Phoebe definitely recognizes like that Holden is not doing well, and she's like, if all I can do is give you $8, then take it. But yeah, I feel like the ways in which Phoebe is similar to Holden, like sometimes I was reading the ending and the ways that they kind of butt heads, it sort of feels like there's finally a character that can like, that like Holden sort of meets his match, or yeah, it's kind of a window in what it's like for like Holden to interact with himself, because like he's always commenting on other people's habits or patterns of behavior or whatever it is, right? And then not to jump ahead, I guess, but even since we're talking about Phoebe, like at the end when Holden's like, well, you can't just not go to school, you have to go to school. I'm like, Holden, do you hear yourself?
Yeah.
And I feel like Phoebe's kind of a character that like Holden doesn't realize it, but I think that because he has this sense of like responsibility and like being an older brother, wanting her to be safe, that he like makes decisions or says things that would otherwise like be at odds with what he feels for himself,
Yeah, definitely. I think that's right, that he's met his match, and I mean, she just gets him and pins him right away, and I I think that showcased in like the moment where she's challenging him to come up with one thing that he really likes,
Yeah.
and he just really can't. Eventually he comes out with Allie, and then Phoebe's like, "Well, he's dead.
Yeah. Right.
It doesn't count. He's dead." Um, so I mean, she just has his number, and I think that's great. And
Yeah. What
I mean,
about? Oh,
obviously, like not jumping at either, but really, it's her that kind of is the reason he stops and backs down from his plan that was never going to work anyways. But
yeah.
she's really what kind of talks him off the ledge.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not like intentionally, but just by being there, being present, and him having someone else to think of and take care of. That's what reels him in. So
She was his catcher of the rye.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, Josh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
I thought it was going to be the professor guy at first, and then things got weird. I was like, oh no, that's not what this is.
Yeah.
That was actually like my notes throughout this book, or these chapters was I wasn't expecting the context for what catcher in the rye meant when Holden was describing that to Phoebe at 225. But I don't know, there was something about the way he's been talking this whole time. I was, since the end of the last chapters that we read, I've just been under this impression that Holden was going to end up committing suicide.
Yeah.
And it was not looking good throughout his entire conversation with Phoebe. And then there was the story about the kid who jumped at one of his old schools.
Yeah.
And this professor that he goes to meet was like the only one who like helped afterwards. So I was like, oh, so going forward, I thought that this was going to be this professor guy was Mr. Antolini is the catcher in the rye. And it was about page 244 is when I start to think like, oh, maybe Holden isn't going to die here.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, things got weird. It's like, oh, this is spiraling. Uh-oh. And then all the stuff with Phoebe happened again, and it's like, oh, he was super close to disappearing throughout this whole chapter 25. His hangover or whatever was going on through his head didn't help. But ultimately Phoebe was the catcher of the rye for him and pulled him back from the edge.
Yes.
And that's mostly what I came up with during that whole reading that I did last week. Sorry, brain just broke there for a second.
There's at least like 4 things you mentioned that I want to talk about. I think the first thing is, so I also thought Holden was going to kill himself. And
did you think that before reading this time, or when you first read it back in middle school?
No, what I'm saying is this time. I didn't remember how it ended. And because I didn't remember the ending, I was picking up on all the same things. And I think that, you're meant to be concerned. Like, Salinger even has a character like Antolini when he says like, Holden, you're heading for a horrible fall, Salinger is definitely trying to put this idea in your head. Allie's dead. Yeah, the kid from Elkton kills himself. The thing that kind of changed that for me is when Antolini gives Holden the piece of paper with that little quote about like immaturity is wanting to die nobly for a cause, and then like maturity is wanting to live nobly for a cause, something like that, to that effect.
Yep. Live humbly for a cause.
Right, live humbly for a cause. And then Holden was like, and I still have that piece of paper. And I was like, well, I'm still have not been totally sure about the framing device, and I'll want to talk a little bit more about that at the end. But that made me think like, oh, Holden probably is alive. If I'm assuming like how this is being written here is, I don't know, coherent. But I still feel like or felt like something bad is going to happen. So then I'm like, Phoebe's gonna die. And the whole section where Phoebe's all pissed at him and Holden's like, oh, I swear to God, she nearly killed herself crossing the street. She didn't even look that the cars were coming.
Yep.
She's
Definitely
walking on the other side of the
foreshadowing to me.
road. Yeah. He can't see her when the double-decker buses go by. Like Salinger mentions all these things that like feel like they could be immediately very deadly.
It's terrifying.
Yep. And it's
especially in combination with Holden's mental and physical state for the last 3 chapters.
Exactly.
You're like, fuck, he's not in, like, he can't protect her from this. He is all fucked up. There's something really bad's gonna happen. Like, you do kind of feel that that sense of danger, and it's very ominous.
Yeah. And it's crazy that Salinger's able to create that feeling because I mean, ultimately none of that happens.
Okay.
But I don't feel like it's a bait and switch. It's like the danger is real. Like, just because the most horrible outcome doesn't occur, it doesn't mean that the danger isn't present, or that like or that Holden was right to be like making all these decisions. Like, none of it's justified. It's just that sometimes God looks the other way, right? Like, so there's that. And then the whole, so Mr. Antolini, I guess we gotta talk about it.
Yeah.
Before Josh, before he starts caressing him, what did you think of him as a character? What did you think of him, like, giving Holden a place to stay and what he said to him?
I thought it was a little weird that he was just so open at, like, 1 a.m. to the student he probably hasn't talked to in 8 years. Maybe not that long, but like a couple of years, showing up, being like, hey, I need a place to sleep. That was just weird to me, but I think that's just more a cultural difference between when the book was written and today.
He does seem to be close to the family as well, to Holden's family.
Yeah.
Yes.
He and his wife both seemed like, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Socialites.
They're kind of like bohemian types. They're like
very modern. And, Yep. Very very. Liberal's not the right word, but they're not reserved. It feels like.
Yeah.
So they're like they're cleaning up after a party, and it's clear they have a lot of affection for one another, and it's a very strange dynamic that Holden finds himself in, but he seems to fit in at first, and he actually seems to be listening to Antolini at first, which is like, oh, maybe this is where the switch flips, and he finally gets it through his head that he's the problem, he's his own worst problem, but that isn't quite what happened. He just gets tired. I feel like these last 2 or 3 chapters, he's just been extremely hungover, and like you said, just not working on any sense of normalcy, and so that was not helping him at all. And here he is trying to get a life lesson, and he's just unable to focus, like, at all. And I don't think that's him as totally his personality. I think that's just the fact that he is exhausted and hungover and just not able to give his full attention like he clearly wants to.
Yeah. And, I mean, he's not just hungover. He's exhausted. He is slowly getting sick. He is like he's falling ill and just getting more and more sick as the book wraps up.
Yeah, no, I'm using hungover as a shorthand.
And then of course, there's the turn and Holden wakes up to Mr. Antolini like stroking his hair, or he describes it as like petting his head, I think, really.
Yeah.
And Holden gets him immediately, and he's like, I gotta go. I gotta go get my bags, you know, at the train station. Yeah, Connor, you had said that this was like a moment that had stuck with you, that you remembered this.
Yeah.
I don't know. Can you speak to that at all?
Just the shock of the moment, really. Like this really was the biggest. Yeah, I mean, moment in the whole book that like it. I was just waiting for that penny to drop, and just because it's like I I don't know, it's just like one of those really weird, fucking bizarre moments, like you can't believe you're living or that you're reading, you know, and yeah, I mean, I like wasn't totally sure when it happened in the book, but it was definitely one that stuck with me, and I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's I think it's one of the most shocking things that happens in the book, and Holden's thought like this is it's really what causes him to spiral, and it's like after it happens, he really just wants to disappear,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yes.
he's like there's no going back, and then he's like, oh well, what, am I wrong about what happened, like maybe it was just innocent, and I'm just blowing it all up out of proportion, which is like uh, unfortunately like a very common thing for like people who are in these situations to feel afterwards, and yeah, I mean that combined with like what he's dealt with, throughout the book before this, like really could be what pushes him over the edge, like James Castle. And so yeah, it's really startling, and you know you you like feel that sense of fear that is like running through his veins. I don't know. It's very
I certainly
effective.
felt the uncertainty in that moment.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know. You're right. It's very like unclear what's going on, and I think that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
But it once again just feels like something that's happening, and there didn't seem to be a lot of build up to that. So maybe, I mean, that's part of the shock factor. Um, I don't know. It was weird. I will note he didn't say anything about Antolini being flitty or anything like that. So um, I don't really know what that speaks to. I just noted that he didn't bring that up.
I think he does use the word, actually.
He
Does he?
does. He does.
It's
Yeah.
been a week or two. Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there goes my point.
No, I mean, it's obviously he's a 16-year-old kid, and like, I mean, doesn't in that moment he's all kinds of fucked up and spiraling, and so it's like I can't really blame him for not realizing the issue isn't that Antolini is flitty; it's that he's a pedophile.
Yeah.
um, but he does use the term afterwards, recounting it.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is, I mean, talking about like, yeah, the uncertainty of the moment, because in the following chapter, yeah, Holden's like, oh, what if I'm blowing it out of proportion? What if it was innocent? It made me kind of think about it, and I'm like, is there any possibility that there's like another motive here behind Antolini's actions? And from what we know about him, it doesn't seem like it. It it really just does. And the thing is too is like that's what's so kind of insidious about it, because obviously Salinger could have written that Antolini was like, stroking his leg or his thigh, or worse. And instead, he writes it as kind of like caressing his hair. And I feel like that's exactly the kind of, what do they call that? Plausible deniability, right? That like if anyone's, and Holden even thinks that. He's like, I'm not worried about, what Antolini's going to say, because he's like a smart guy. He's going to say what he's going to say. Like, it's not going to matter for him. But yeah, it's like, it does seem like Antolini's intentions are exactly what Holden fears. And that's like what is so fucked up about this moment, because like Holden's coming to him because, he thinks that he could be safe there, and he's like thanking him for taking care of him, and not only that, but like the whole history of Antolini being the one to cover and carry the body of the boy who had committed suicide. And then you think about Holden's whole deal of like wanting to, save children from falling off a cliff. Like Antolini, I think in some ways kind of represents that to Holden as an adult. Like he does kind of have some of those qualities. And so it's like, how fucked is it that he's also the same character, to do something like this to Holden? I think that Salinger, I'm not. I really don't know what to make of him completely as a character. I think that Salinger really just puts these two contrasts side by side. Like both of these things can exist in the same person. You could have someone who would, be the only one to step up in a crowd and try to like, respectfully treat the body of someone who had just committed suicide, and then also, try to take advantage of Holden in this way. And Salinger writes it like that's the same person,
Yeah. I mean,
both those things.
There's that. I mean, there's also kind of, I guess, more insidious reading, which is like, the same person that you like. It's like Predator 101 to like pretend you are an open, you are open ears and a safe place for like vulnerable people, and then turn around and abuse them, unfortunately. But no, you're right. I mean, there is certainly some sort of a duality there, but
well, and the thing is, you're right about that. If it were just like, oh, I got a couch for you to crash on, and that'd be one thing. You're right. That'd be easy to just be a front to get what he wants. But the whole thing about him covering the body of the child and moving him so he's not just like this mangled husk on the fucking sidewalk or whatever. I mean, unless Antolini's way more fucked up than the book writes about, I think his intentions here, as Holden describes it, are like legitimate in terms of like not just leaving the body where it is. You see what I mean?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It does just make me think about like this James Castle character and what he was going through, in addition to that bullying, and I don't know. I don't know. It's not worth diving into, but it's a very sad road to go down. This guy's a fucko for sure. But I do want to go back a little bit too, because I think we did mention briefly the whole Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah, I want to talk
That's the
about
title of the book. Cool, but I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on like Holden's kind of dream, or about this poem, and about catching these kids from falling off this cliff. Um, how he imagines this his role in this poem, and what that says about him as a character. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Not
Josh.
really thoughts that I can put into words. I mean, I get the mental picture he's painting there. I just not sure. I guess he feels like his position is to be like the big fish in a little pond, just protecting or a shepherd, perhaps. And that just doesn't really fit in with the world that he's stuck with. But at the same time, it's also just a fantasy that isn't possible and never was possible, and it's just going to have to remain that way. So I don't know. It's hard to put that feeling into words, but I think that's about as best as I can do.
Yeah. And Holden does, he's like, I know it sounds crazy. I know it does.
Mhm.
I know it does.
It's very poetic, either way.
It is. I like this moment for two reasons. One, because it's the only answer Holden has for Phoebe asking him what he wants to do, like as a career, like as a job. And Holden's like, I know this is fucking nuts, but he's like, yeah, being a lawyer sounds okay, but I think what I'd really want to do is spend all day on a cliff with thousands of children while they're playing in a rye field. And if any one of them is going to fall off the cliff, I'll be able to save them from falling off the cliff. And then Phoebe doesn't even comment on this. She just goes, Dad's going to kill you. Like, that's
Yeah.
the best he can do. And I mean, and the thing is, like, it just goes to show how much, Holden does not fit into the world the way it is. Because it's like, even now at the school that I'm in, they have kids take like a little career test or whatever. And it'll be like, oh, do you like taking things apart and fixing them? Or do you like talking with people, and then you add it all up and it's like, this is your aptitude. And, ultimately it's all bullshit for the most part,
Yeah.
and it is weird to think that like there's essentially all these preset professions just existing, that we're born into. And it's like, oh, do you want to be a chef? Do you want to be a pilot? Do you want to be a musician? It's like you can go down the list, but ultimately anything that you choose, has to like be logical, and it has to make money for you and for someone else. Like, and what Holden wants is not that at all. There
Yep.
is no job that exists that like he can do.
That's the part of being a lawyer that he's repulsed by, is the money making part.
Yeah.
There's something I just thought of. Do you think he would do good as an EMS? Like emergency
Maybe.
paramedic or someone?
Maybe.
No, I don't.
No?
No, well, because the thing is, Josh, you're right that the skills that Holden is talking about are transferable to that. But just the fact that those skills are then like put into the confines of a job, it's destroyed for him. I don't think
That's
he-
what. Yes, that's 100% what removes
You're
him from that possibility. I mean, as somebody who, it very much relates to this internal dilemma. Connor's 100% right. What I wanted to mention about this fantasy he has or whatever, it just makes me really think that like he wishes there was somebody there to catch him from falling off the cliff, and also he wishes that he could have saved Allie from falling off the cliff.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, and so those are the two things running through my head while reading that portion.
Yeah. No, I agree completely that Allie is running through this and is a big part of that. That's really what I was thinking. I wasn't even thinking about Holden and like himself, like feeling like he's gonna fall off the cliff. Um, but yeah, I mean, I definitely think it goes to show just how much he like feels, yeah, that Allie's not there. Man, that scene when he's maybe at like his most untethered and he's like walking um he's walking along the blocks and he was like, it feels like when I step off the block into the crosswalk, I disappear. And like the only way he
Mhm.
can ground himself is by what he says, like, don't let me disappear, Allie, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal. Yeah. I mean, man. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I think he's almost like subconsciously he's aware of him like being on the edge, but he never really admits it to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you want to so yeah, talk about what happens after he rushes out of what's his face's apartment or house or whatever?
Yeah, because then that's when he decides that he's gonna leave. He has this whole extended fantasy being a blind deaf mute.
I think he just has a deaf mute.
Yeah, being blind, deaf, mute would be very difficult. That's like Helen Keller.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be. It wouldn't really work being a blind deaf mute. I'm pretty sure he just says deaf mute.
Oh, you're right. I kept saying blind, but you're right. Just a deaf mute. Sorry.
Which is just like he wouldn't have to talk to anybody.
Yeah, this is his whole.
That's his fantasy. Even his wife would be a deaf mute too.
Yes. Yeah, I was confused on to whether or not in his fantasy his wife is pretending or his wife really is a deaf mute.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think
his fantasy.
Yeah, it wouldn't matter to him as long as she plays the part. It's fine.
Right. Yeah, no, that was like a really crazy part, and it I mean, it makes me think of the very very end when he says, "Don't ever tell anybody anything," and that's like in his like wildest fantasy or whatever. He's like, "I just won't talk to anyone ever."
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I mean, God, fuck. That's the moral of the story. Don't ever tell anybody anything. And just it feels pretty, like pretty salient advice these days, in a really twisted way. But God, yeah. So that's what's running through his head. He sorry, you can go on. Actually, I'll let you do your job.
yeah. Well, and that's what leads him to. Oh, by the way, can I just say the whole deaf mute thing when he says, I thought what I'd do was I'd be one of those deaf mutes. I had been waiting for that line in particular to show up in the book, because I had watched Ghost in the Shell standalone complex when I was a kid. That was on Adult Swim, oddly enough. That came on right after Rat Mouse, I think it was. They would play, and in the first season of that show, it's excellent, by the way. There's a villain called the Laughing Man, and it's all like digital cyberpunky kind of shit, and so like in like he's able to like censor people's faces, and there's like the text going around their face is that's what it says. I thought what I'd do was I'd be one of those deaf mutes. And he's called the Laughing Man, which even that I didn't realize was a JD Salinger reference, because JD Salinger also wrote a story called The Laughing Man. So I just wanted to throw that out there as like a fun fact.
Yeah.
I was not positive that line was going to be in the book, but like as I was reading through the book and Holden kept saying like, I thought what I'd do was, in my head, I'm like, oh, that sounds just like that fucking thing. And sure enough, yes, that fucking thing from Ghost in the Shell was a Catcher in the Rye reference. They probably even say that in the show, and I just like didn't remember. I haven't watched it in a long time.
That's awesome.
So there you go.
I haven't seen that show yet, so I can't comment. But when I do get to it, I'll have to look out for that.
It's great. It's a good show. And you won't have to look out for it because it's like the main thrust of the entire season. So you'll know it. Anyways, he gives Phoebe this note because he says he's going to take off, and then Phoebe comes with her suitcase and they have their whole deal.
He has a school secretary deliver it to Phoebe.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I kept wondering if the school really was closed. He talked about like how few people were there, you know? Because like then he talks to the two kids at the museum for the mummy exhibit, and they're like, oh, there's no school today, but they're just like little punks who are skipping school.
Yeah.
But I was like, is Phoebe really even going to show? Did she even get the note? I kept waiting for there to be some sort of like tragic misunderstanding, or oh no, Phoebe didn't get the note, or oh, they missed each other, or I don't know what the hell was going to happen.
Yeah. I feel like if there hadn't been school, I know those kids were delinquents, but if there hadn't been school, then the people in the office would have told him.
Yes.
When he went to deliver the note. So
true enough.
But you're right. There is the chance that, like he says in the book, that secretary just doesn't give Phoebe the note. So
yeah. I guess from this part, what I want to talk about, and I already mentioned a little bit, but I'd like to hear like if Josh has anything to add, or if we want to jump off into something else. But I thought it was interesting when Phoebe shows up with her suitcase and she's like, I want to go too. And Holden immediately is like, that's crazy. You can't fucking do that. And of course, there's like this difference of degrees where like if Holden's parents were at all aware of what he was thinking or what he was doing, that's what they would say to him. They'd be like, you're fucking crazy. You can't do that. You have to go back to school. Holden would say, no, I'm not going back to school ever again, blah, blah, blah. And so Holden, due to like his own kind of like insanity that he's going through right now, he sort of finds himself in this, like parentage or he has to play the parent to Phoebe and not just be the older brother. Of course, those things it's not that it's one or the other, but like he has to put his foot down and say like, you can't just not go to school and you can't just hitchhike out west with me. You're a kid. But of course there's a hypocrisy in him saying that. He's only 16 himself. That's another thing that Holden never really seems to come face to face with within this book. He doesn't, there's really no, there's no part where it seems like Holden understands the contradiction or the irony. He is just able to tell Phoebe no, but for him it's okay. And I thought this was like a really interesting wrinkle in like Holden's plan. In Holden's head, everything's going to go so smoothly. He's going to have his sorrowful goodbye and then go out west and have a big, romantic adventure. And I sort of feel like it almost goes back to that line in the book too, where Holden's like, that's the trouble with movies. It makes you think this shit. He thinks he's going to have this like big melodramatic, sorrowful goodbye with Phoebe and then never see her again until he's 35. And he doesn't account on Phoebe like being her own person and being like, oh, well, I want to do that too. And all of a sudden he's like, well, what the fuck? This is what I'm supposed to do. This is my big dramatic exit, not yours. Josh, any thoughts on Holden's crazy plan to go out west or this whole issue with Phoebe? What do you make all this?
I thought the plan was crazy, just straight up. I knew there was no way he could make it work, but it I don't know, for some reason it felt very. It kind of reminded me of what was that book we read? Of Mice and Men.
Oh yeah.
Like it was that situation. Like it felt like he wanted to go do Of Mice and Men for himself and just travel out into rural America and just work to sustain himself, and that's it. And I'm not saying like the exact plot of Mice and Men would play out in his little fantasy. I'm just mean like that's the vibe that I was getting, and that what's the word, like the mental image of what the main characters in that looked like. It was very 30s.
Yeah.
In Great Depression era, but I mean this takes place in the 50s, so obviously this is not going to work. When Phoebe shows up, I think that's just the cold water on his little fantasy there, and he doesn't quite realize that it's the cold water, but he's starting to say the things that he needs to say to take care of Phoebe, and I don't think he quite realizes that it's taking care of himself at the same time.
Yeah. Good point. Connor, anything else here, or did you want to talk about something else? What are you thinking about all this?
Well, yeah, I mean, I did want to go back a little bit, just rewind a bit. You know, when he well, I mean, as far as the plan goes, I think I do think you're right. Like it's just a big fantasy that really has no chance of working. But I mean, in Holden's brain, it's like I definitely do think it is like influenced by some sort of like fantastical storytelling he's witnessed, like many kids have fantasies comprised of. But for him it's kind of just like, well, this is the only way I'm going to get everyone to just shut the fuck up. Like this is the only way I will find peace and people will stop being fucking assholes all the time. And I mean, in reality, that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. You're always going to have to deal with assholes. You're always going to be dealing with phonies. And I mean, yeah, in his fantasy, he even says he'll let DB come to his cabin and use it to write, but not write movies, only write books.
Yep.
He can only write Holden approved works of literature. The other thing I wanted to point out is what he's waiting for Phoebe to show up at the museum, and he has diarrhea.
Yes.
Not a big deal. But he just has diarrhea. It's okay though. And then he gets up from the toilet seat and he passes out. He passes out in the bathroom because he is so exhausted and sick and fucking on the edge of breakdown.
Yes.
And then after that, it seems like from his timeline, like he's passed out on the bathroom floor for like 20 minutes or something like that, because he wakes up and it's like 10 after 12 or something, it's like, and it was like 11:40 or something when he mentioned the time earlier. So then he's talking to those kids and then he goes to the bathroom, so it's like at least 15 minutes of being passed out on the bathroom floor probably. But after that he's like, oh, I feel a little bit better actually. Which is just like, yeah, your body had to do a hard reset because you're
Yeah.
you're going way too hard right now. Um, yeah, no, I think that's a great point about not realizing that Phoebe is kind of her own person and has her own uh, wants and needs, and one of those wants and needs is to have her brother in her life, and uh, I think he just doesn't realize that like it's not all about him. It's this is not only his journey. Like there's people in his life that he has relationships with that really do care about him. And like Phoebe's the only one that really he like can get through to him, and it's after so many people have tried. I mean, we never see his parents try, but I'm sure there's a point between the last two chapters that they have pretty direct conversations with him.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, yeah, it's really Phoebe who proves that to him, even subconsciously. With her bringing her big old suitcase to travel with him.
Yeah. And we'll talk about Phoebe and how that all factors in just a moment, because we should talk about the very end. I did just want to say, like, I'm glad you brought this line up too, Connor, about he doesn't, in his fantasy, he doesn't want to talk to anyone, and it's like there's going to be phonies everywhere. There's this line on page 264. He says, "That's the whole trouble. You can't ever find a place that's nice and peaceful." And that's in reference to him seeing people graffiti "fuck you" onto different places.
Yeah, I love. He says, even on my tombstone, somebody
Yes.
will deface it with "fuck you." It'll say Holden Caulfield, the year I was born, the year I die, and then underneath "fuck you."
Yeah. Well, yeah. No, I mean, and what a great, like we were talking about kind of like the nihilism running through this book, and like Holden's mindset. I mean, like for like a, I don't. It's just very evocative imagery, right? I mean,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
it feels kind of in line with something like My Chemical Romance, where it's like the mashup of like this morbid sort of nature with not that My Chemical Romance is nihilistic. They're actually like very hopeful and passionate, but I guess I mean,
that's
like,
all in there though. It's
for a teenager, like it's like this is very compelling,
yeah,
to be
absolutely. I mean,
joking
it's
about this.
yeah, and I mean, it's yeah, that's all in there. Which I think your misery and hate will kill us all. That's kind of what Holden is kind of running away from, but also is contributing to
Yeah,
unknowingly.
yeah. But that whole idea, um, you can't ever find a place that's nice and peaceful. I feel like that goes hand in hand with like Holden. Like there is no job that he like could ever do or wants to
Yeah.
do. Like, and I think Holden does have like this very, I don't know, romantic or naive kind of notion. But like when I say naive, I don't even mean it condescendingly. It's just like, you know, uh, it's he just will never ever want to play ball with the rules of society, and I don't know, I just feel like there's a lot of sorrow in this line because it sort of speaks to the idea of like a lost past, or the ways in which things may have been better like before all of these institutions and rules were set up. It almost kind of implies, I feel like, that there was a time where someone could theoretically have just gone out in a field and like saved children from jumping off a cliff, and that would have been his job. And so every now and then you do get like weird anecdotal stories of weirdos from history, and they're like, old so and so who was the first person to figure out that you can, I don't know, fucking
eat the blueberry.
Whatever it is. Because of course, like, there just has to have been points in which like things were not known and things were not settled and things were not like cohesive and controlled in the way that they are today. Mm-hmm. And Holden has this affliction that many people go through, and it's like that understanding that like you are not compatible with the way the world is. And to this day, I feel like this line, there's not a place that's nice and peaceful. I mean, like, that's almost basically true. I think that all the time, you'll even like walking on a nice beach or something, and it'll be like so serene and wonderful. And then inevitably there's going to be some fucking garbage there because like 80% of the world's garbage is in the ocean, so it has to wash up somewhere. And fucking, it's like you cannot be anywhere that is not somehow tainted by like the.
You got a guy, a guy with a thin blue line tattoo, screaming his head off playing volleyball.
There you go. Whatever it is, like there is. I don't know. I really do kind of think that's true. There is no place that's nice and peaceful. I feel like for the most part, that's true.
I feel that way all the time. Like, I mean, I won't even tell you how miserable I felt this last shift before I had my days off last night and tonight, and really I felt Holden coded. This is before it's before I read these chapters, but like,
yeah.
I was like, I was so fucking sick and tired and like almost passing out of work because I was so exhausted after, I was like, had family visiting. So I was like, spent the last week kind of not sleeping very much and seeing that. And so I was just, it was, and just that thought, like, wow, there is no peace. It's pretty universal, I think. And obviously it's like, well, you got to find that peace within yourself, man.
Yeah.
Find that peace within yourself.
And peace is a state of mind.
And do we feel like Holden finds that peace? Because at the end of the book, chapter 25, we were talking about how Phoebe is kind of the catcher in the rye for him and maybe unwittingly saves him from his own disastrous decision making. Because there's that moment. He's the only one sitting there on the bench in the pouring rain, and he looks over at Phoebe on the carousel going around and round, and they wave at each other, and Holden says that he feels happy. That has to be the only time in the book he said that, right? I mean, like, it really feels like a humongous moment within the context of the story.
Yeah. It's a real beautiful moment. And I mean, I think in that moment he does find peace. It's like not an everlasting peace, but that's never gonna be the case, for anybody, I guess. But yeah, I mean that's the moment that she saves him. That's the moment that I think he really, really, truly does decide, okay, I'm not actually leaving. He says that to her before to kind of get her to play along with him, but I think that's really the moment when he decides, all right, I'll go home and see what happens next. And then I mean how that chapter ends too. I think it's like he says, "I really wish you could have seen it," or something like that.
Yeah.
Who's he talking to?
You, buddy.
The reader.
Yeah.
The nurse he's talking to before getting discharged from the hospital. I don't know.
I feel like he was talking to Allie in that moment.
Oh,
That's a
like
good
that.
interpretation. I was going to make another joke about being a psychiatrist at the hospital, but that's probably a bit more poetic.
Yeah, I do really like that interpretation. It's just he has used that line before. I wish you could have seen it, and of course, the story opens with him saying like, "What if you really want to hear? If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is blah 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 blah." And the way that he's bringing it up there, he's not talking with Allie. I do think that this just goes back to the framing device, but
Yeah,
it doesn't mean it has to be that simple. I think what you're saying there is really profound.
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, it's really just that one line. God, it's God. I wish you could have been there. Is what he says.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Which does really make me feel like it's pointing towards Allie, but no, I'm sure it's not. I mean, it could just be us.
Yeah, or whoever he's talking to.
Well, hang on. No, I mean, I think now that you say it, Connor, I think that's an important difference. God, I wish you could have been there. Because I think other times he said, like, oh, I wish, I don't know, you could have seen that, or like he's describing something, and he's used similar lines, but
Yeah, I think that's the first time he said "been there," like
yeah,
that you're missing from this experience.
yeah,
Especially being a familial thing, where he mentions too, him and his brothers watching Phoebe play, or
on the
on the carousel
carousel. Yeah,
before.
yeah,
So yeah, just my thought.
yeah, yeah. No, I really like that. You kind of won me over. I think you might be right about that. Um,
I would play devil's advocate for just a little bit and say it could just be a language change over the last few decades, where that does feel like it could be just a turn of phrase for what he was experiencing. But I do get where you're coming from on this. I do. Just it could just be the way people spoke back then. That's all I'm trying to say.
yeah, but I mean, like for the last line of the second to last chapter of a book, you would think that the author probably put more thought into it than that.
Maybe.
Um, I did kind of think too, like, what is it about this moment that makes Holden like feel so happy, or and um, it could also be just as simple as seeing his sister happy, or knowing that like he was part of um making this moment for her, and like if he left, then would she still be able to have moments like this, or I wouldn't be part, like there's any number of things. But I was kind of thinking about the carousel itself, because um of course, like the cover art for Catcher in the Rye is very famous, and it is of the carousel. So it's the
Oh, that's what it is. Okay.
yes,
Sorry, I wasn't putting that together. I thought it
yeah,
was they mentioned some horse statues at the beginning of the book. I think related to Pensy or something, and that's what I thought it was forever. And
oh
I did not put it together that it was the carousel with the poles right there through the horse. I don't know how I
yeah,
didn't see that. Ugh.
yeah. Well, I mean, it is kind of a abstract sort of it's not like it's realistically
I mean,
drawn, but
it's not realistic by any means, but it's also like completely obvious.
well, anyways, it's kind of funny. I felt like that this is the cover art when the carousel is only here and mentioned in one chapter, and it's a very brief moment. Ultimately, that's kind of the name of the game for this whole book. It always, I kept always waiting for like one of the chapters to like be the chapter where like the story starts, and then it's like, oh shit, now they gotta figure out this whole debacle with Maurice and Sonny. Nope. Oh well, surely Holden's gonna get found out when he tries to go visit old Phoebe, and then And and then what? And then it's going to be the story of him confronting his parents, or does he have to run away? It's like nope. Catcher in the Rye defies those more like logical or expected kind of narrative conventions in a lot of ways. And so like with the carousel only being a small part of with the end of this book, and again like being prominently featured on the cover, you also could be like, what else would the cover be? But at any rate, I guess I feel like watching Phoebe go around and around the carousel, it's sort of representative of like aging or like orbiting around the sun. And I feel like this moment is almost a little bit of like a microcosm of like Holden envisioning like the rest of Phoebe's life and the rest of his life, and like that's sort of, I think that's part of like why this moment like works for him, and why he changes his mind about leaving and why he feels this happiness. Like I think in some ways you also could interpret it as being representative of like their lives to come, going around and around. That's it's like sort of what I am like was trying to get out of that, or if you get what I mean,
Yeah, definitely. And also, I mean, Phoebe kind of thinks maybe she's too old for the carousel, and Holden kind of dissuades her from that idea. But also, it's kind of a thought like, oh, maybe this is the last time he watches her go around and around on this carousel.
right.
And that's obviously that's a connection to his past and happier times with his family as well. But I like your thoughts on it too, because I think that's definitely there.
And you're right too, though, because I also was kind of waiting, like when Phoebe comes back and asks him to get on. I just kind of thought he was going to. I was like, well, that would make sense, right? They like share this moment together, but he doesn't. And so there is sort of this implication where even though Holden is like egging her on, like, no, go on the carousel, there is also kind of this acknowledgement where it's like, no, but there does come a point where you're too old to get on anymore. And I think the carousel really is a good like stand-in for that idea, because I don't know, when's the last fucking time any one of us has been on a carousel? I'm willing to bet probably a while.
Yeah, a couple of years. Because I hate those. I hate like small spinny rides like carousels, or the like the traveling carnival rides that just go in small tight circles. I can't handle them.
Yeah. Well, so it's kind of representative of like the end of childhood, right? And and
I even when I was younger, I didn't like them.
Yeah.
Much, but
All right, well, you're exempt from this, Josh.
I did like being on carousels when I was a kid.
Carousels specifically not the worst. But I'm talking more like the spinning teacup kind of rides, which are similarly sized.
Oh my
but
God, that's a very different ride.
It is. No, you're right. I associate that small like circular ride as like with carousels too. It's just
all right.
Yeah.
Part of my mentality. I'm sorry.
What do you guys think of the that little caterpillar roller coaster used to have everywhere? Like the little baby's first caterpillar.
Oh, like Hoffman's Playland or whatever.
That's still my favorite.
Yeah.
Best roller coaster.
Yeah.
It was fun until it was about 8 or so.
Yep. And then it was time to get out of the sandbox and put those toys away, Josh. And that's kind of the deal. And Connor's right. Like, yeah, maybe this is the last time. That's again, I was saying, like, I thought Holden was going to join her on there, but no, there does come a point where, yeah, like the ride's over. And so I guess Holden is like sort of appreciating. He's like living in the present a little bit in this moment.
Yeah.
In a way that he
I mean,
often do.
Also, the the ride's over for him in a different way. You know, is this the time where he puts away his misgivings with the education system and starts applying himself? And obviously, we get to his answer there at the end a little bit. But yeah, I mean, there is, him sitting that one out does, oh, is it time for him to move on? Is it time to grow up? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about this very short, very last chapter. Because yeah, Holden says that, like, DB is visiting him in the hospital, and Holden's like, yeah, people are asking me, am I gonna apply myself when I go back to school? And he's like, I don't know. I think I will, but how am I supposed to know until I'm there or until I'm doing it? It's another one of those like shifts in perception that I think kind of comes with it. Like, this is a thought that seems, maybe more sound when you're younger. Like, it feels like you're kind of cutting through the bullshit and you're like, well, how am I supposed to? But it's like there is something to be said for making a decision and seeing it through, which is really what people are asking of Holden. They're like, Holden, we know you're not at school right now, but like, when you're there, will you be like, that's a very adult oriented kind of decision making process, right? It'd be like if someone was like, are you going to go to work tomorrow? And it's like, well, I don't know. I'm not at work right now. Am I going
It's
to
not
go to
tomorrow
work
yet.
tomorrow?
How would I
Right, it's
know?
not tomorrow yet. How am I supposed to fucking know? It's like, no, it's Friday. You're scheduled.
Yeah.
You go
Yeah.
to work. That's
A
what
car
you
could
do.
crash into my front door. I don't
Yeah.
know.
And so, as with a lot of things, it's not that Holden's wrong, but it does kind of seem like a window into, like, I don't think that when Holden goes back to school, it's going to be a completely different Holden. I don't think that person is gone.
No.
So, yeah.
I think it could be, climbing up one of the rungs of the ladder, and the Holden we see start school the following year is a leveled up Holden, but not completely different to the one that we have been reading about. But yeah, I mean,
Maybe he can pass at least 2 classes.
Yeah, maybe. So I mean, but I do think that there is some kind of growth there. Maybe more emotional than like logical, though.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely still think there's been a change. Like, Holden going through the events of the story, I think if anything, I feel like this story is like Holden overcoming his like, I want to say depression, which would sort of imply, again, like, oh, well, so he's not depressed anymore. And it's like, yeah, well, things don't really work that way. But
nope.
But really what Holden's grappling with, and what I think he's able to, like, come to terms with and accept, is the passing of Allie, and like, not have that dominate, like, every aspect of his life in a negative way.
Yeah.
And so I think he overcomes his grief, but it doesn't mean that he's like, oh yeah, and now I agree with, like, all societal rules. I think that he's just like he's not tied down by like that anguish, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right, and I think him, like, he had to kind of go through this experience. He had to kind of, like, fall on his ass for, like, his support system, for his family to realize, oh, he's in trouble. Oh, he needs help. And I mean, it seems like at least at the end there, they at least are making some effort to be there for him, and uh, you know, get him through dealing with this trauma. Uh, Presumably, he's talking to a psychoanalyst after all.
Right. Yes. Yeah, I didn't even really think about that. Like, obviously I had read that, but it does sort of feel like an interesting callback to what Carl Luce was saying. You got to
Yeah.
be psychoanalyzed.
Yeah.
Holden's like,
Yeah.
really? You think so? um, I kind of just want to read through these final lines here and discuss them briefly, and then if there's anything else we want to mention about these chapters, we can go for it, and then maybe we'll take a quick break before we give our final thoughts.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, sounds
where
good.
we're at. But so not only is Holden being asked about like, oh, are you going to apply yourself in September? We also get this part. It says, anyway, DB asked me what I thought about all this stuff I just finished telling you about. I didn't know what the hell to say. If you want to know the truth, I don't know what I think about it. I'm sorry I told so many people about it. About all I know is I sort of miss everybody I told about. Even old Stradlater and Ackley, for instance. I think I even miss that goddamn Maurice. It's funny. Don't ever tell anybody anything. If you do, you start missing everybody. I did really like this ending, and yeah, it's one of those endings that you're kind of like, so what the fuck, right? So
Yeah.
what the hell was it all about? And I think Salinger is it's almost like a bit of a challenge, or maybe even like mocking the reader just a little bit, because when Holden's being asked, oh, so what do you make of this whole thing, and Holden says, I don't know. Obviously that's meant to mirror you as the reader, like, so you just read the whole book, and Holden's like, you want to know what I think the story was about? Actually, I don't fucking know it all. And you're, as the reader, you're kind of just like, well, wait, what? So what am I supposed to make of this? And I guess that's the thing. I feel like Salinger's goal in a lot of ways, maybe even goal is too strong of a word, but I think that something that he tries to accomplish with this book is to not give you answers deliberately, and to create situations that are like very unclear, and I get that even my description of that is vague, but we were talking about Antolini and the way that he might embody these two very like starkly different extremes. But even like, characters, when we were talking about like Carl Luce, there's always these bad, annoying, grating qualities alongside like, but maybe he has a point about this, or like, oh, but this aspect of him is kind of interesting. I feel like Salinger is really trying to portray people honestly, and for the most part that means like showing them as capable of good and bad, together, and to not be so reductive about it and be like, oh, this is a good person and this is a bad person. It's like everyone in the book has some kind of an opportunity to like show their strengths and show their flaws. And so like it's weird when it comes to the end, and it's like, well, the story's done. What was it about? I don't know. And we had already talked about a lot of the things it's about, and I do think that it's meant to be this this portrayal of like, trying to overcome this humongous grief, or like this weight from your past. And Holden, doesn't even really seem to be aware that he's doing that. He's not aware of a lot of things. I think that this is just one of those stories where it's not so much like the plots, and it's not so much like what happens. It's just more so like the experience of like reading the book and going through the story with Holden, and then just being like, are you changed after that experience? Do you get anything out of that? It is very cryptic, but I do think that's also what makes it enduring. Like, it always felt like something big was going to happen, and sometimes it sort of does, but for the most part, it's just a series of events, over and over, and
Yeah.
and then
I
it
mean,
ends, and you're kind of left with,
Yep.
like, so what happened?
there's not some grand resolution. It's just it's just a sliver of somebody's life that we're living with them. And I mean, I think that's like it's just a different kind of storytelling, certainly not one we're used to reading on this podcast. And yeah, so and I think more than anything, more than like uh trying to figure out the moral of the story or the message, or I think it's you're like meant to learn like things about Holden, and in the same at the same time think about like, oh, maybe like I can relate it to my life in some way, or you can learn it, especially for somebody coming of age. Like I think the reason this book stands tests of time is because you can gain insight into your own life and yourself through Holden. So I think if there is a point of any sort, then that's what it would be.
Yeah. Kind of on very quickly, but on that point of like relating, I know you guys saw, but there was that thread on Twitter where it was like, oh man, when you relate to a character, but then you find out that everyone thinks they suck. And then I saw a bunch of people talking about Catcher in the Rye and Holden Caulfield, and I didn't really do any digging because I was like, well, I'm about to finish reading the book. I don't want to get spoiled or whatever. But it seemed to be a popular choice, and I just thought it was funny given how our conversation of the book has gone, with Connor and I at times saying like, yeah, Holden's relatable, and Josh being like, yeah, this guy fucking sucks. He's really annoying.
So I was actually at a road trip with my aunt and uncle over the weekend, and we happened to get into the topic of book clubs. And I mentioned that we were reading Catcher in the Rye, and my uncle was like, "Oh, that's the one with Holden Caulfield." I could not get into that at all. He was not a friend, not a fan. But
Yeah. So
you wouldn't be friends with Holden.
So you must have also offered up like, "Oh yeah, it's been a bit of a chore, right?" Or
I think I said something close to that effect. Yeah, I mean, it was a 6-hour car ride. I don't remember the entire conversation.
You just complained about the book the entire 6 hours.
No, we were actually, we got into talking about banned books and how many we've read or if we'd even heard of them. I was surprised I had
this one
actually read or heard a couple of. I had read or knew the plots of a couple of the banned books that my aunt was listing off, so that was nice.
Now, what about banned books, like books about bands? I've read a few of those.
Not really. No, I don't think I've read any really.
All right,
that'd be a funny.
I don't read textual music. I read music on like music that you play off the sheet.
Fire Dance.
Oh God.
Classic.
All right, should we take a quick break?
Yeah, let's do a tight two, and we'll wrap it up with our final thoughts and rating. Yeah. All right. Cool. Quick pause, guys.
So Connor, are you
What's up?
actually going to edit out the music this time, or?
No,
'Cause
probably not.
I've noticed that you just like haven't been doing that.
Yeah, if people want, they can fast forward. I don't really care.
And then you don't. That means you also don't edit out like this part when we're talking about it. And it just.
No, this is part of the fun. We ain't NPR, baby. We're a free form, living, breathing, independent show. You know.
All right.
You guys want to jump back in?
According to you, we already have. Well.
All right, folks, welcome back. Before we wrap things up and give our final rating, time for our final JD Salinger biography segment.
That's right. I didn't forget about that.
Neither did I.
All right, so I opened up to a random page in this JD Salinger biography. Salinger, a biography by Paul Alexander, brought me to page 284, towards the end of the book. Let's start off at the top of the page. It reads, this much is true without question. In the last half of Salinger's life, he has remained coy and manipulative. Just as many adolescents are, only he was an adult, fully capable of taking adult actions. Eventually, it can be argued, part of what Salinger was protecting by filing his lawsuit against Hamilton was the image he had created over the years, an image that promoted sales of books. Actually, I'm going to keep going for a little bit.
Wow.
In,
All right.
in 1986, even though the novel had been in print for 35 years, The Catcher in the Rye still sold more than 200,000 copies a year, mostly because it remained part of the required reading lists at many high schools and universities. It didn't hurt Salinger's reputation, which he was perfectly aware of, that the author of the novel was perceived to be eccentric and mysterious. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was a bit longer of a passage, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I felt like since it referenced Catcher in the Rye specifically, I wanted to keep going.
Right.
And
Keep going.
and on a beefier note, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
It's funny that the author is like, oh, well, Salinger is making a decision like an adolescent, even though he's an adult who can make adult decisions. And it's like, you know, we just got done reading Catcher in the Rye. Sometimes we're kind of questioning how much of Holden or how much of Salinger is in Holden, you know. It doesn't surprise me that this biographer might kind of have the idea that Salinger himself, you know, has like some aspects of adolescence that like have never left his personality.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and also, you know, I don't know what the lawsuit in question was about, but I mean, calling him manipulative, you know, I wonder, is that just the case that, like, you know, is he manipulative, not letting these companies use his IP, or I don't know. Is that the manipulation in that hand, or is it something more devious?
Yeah, I mean, you might have to actually read the book to understand.
Yeah.
The text.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Just from the small glimpse that we, I mean, and the tone that the biographer is using, calling him, you know, adolescent-like, just makes me think that maybe there's an angle here.
Yeah, maybe so.
Josh, thoughts?
And if there is, would you even want to read the fucking biography? Sounds annoying.
Joshua?
Head empty. Nope. Nothing to really add, sorry.
All right, moving on.
That's okay. Josh, I was kind of thinking you might want to start us off in our final thoughts because I've been wondering how you've been feeling about. Now you've read the whole story. What did you think of it? What do you want to start?
Sure.
How have your thoughts grown over the course of the last few weeks?
I don't know. I couldn't connect to the book. 3 out of 10. Would recommend. Not kidding. This really was a difficult book for me to get into. I can see the angles that you guys were connecting to it from, but they're just not angles that were really ever a part of my life specifically, and I just I'm not the audience for this book, I think. It's just what it boils down to. I was trying very much to find what made this book so compelling to so many people. And I think we touched on a lot of it, but it's just not stuff that connects to me specifically. Um, I'm certainly glad that I've read the book. It's like Connor said, it's required reading in so many schools and universities. It's honestly shocking that I never had the that I never got around to reading it growing up when I was in school. I almost said the opportunity, but I've had the opportunity. We had a library. No, it's not what I expected by any means. I think I mentioned after we wrapped up the voting podcast where we decided to read this. I almost joked with frankly, dear, I don't give a damn line because I had mixed this book up with Gone with the Wind, which I also have not read or watched. So it really has been it was a blind spot in my cultural understanding, but it's also just I don't know. It's just not something I personally could connect to, which I want to say is okay, but I feel like I is me trying to just justify myself. Um, I don't know if I personally could call it a good book. I understand that it's an important book. I understand everything we've been talking about it being it's oh god, I can't put these into words. I understand the stream of consciousness that is Holden's narration. I understand that he's spiraling and losing control of his life and is rescued at the end just by the sheer circumstance of reconnecting with his sister briefly. Um, I understand there's a lot of weird stuff in here that just seems to happen. Um, some of it's within his control and he just lets it loose, and other times it's not within his control and it just seems to come out of nowhere because it's from his perspective. Um, I don't think I was ever the 16-year-old kind of kid that Holden is, and so maybe that's why I just don't connect with it. Um, I will say there were times, not all the time, but there were definitely times where I could see Connor Mack being dropped in his place. um, but I don't mean that as an insult or any kind of besmirchment of anybody's character, yours or Holden's. It's just
He probably takes it as a compliment, Josh. So
I think he does, but I want to be clear to the listener, and I mean that as like our singular listener who's out there. Thank you for listening. Uh, just trying to get some context to that comment. It's it's not my favorite book. That's all I can really say. It's like it's hard for me to say bad things about something because I understand that not everything is out there for me to like, um, and that it's okay to not like something, but it doesn't give you the right to shit on it. for you not liking it, and I'm not saying I want to do that. I'm just saying this is just in the category of I didn't enjoy it to the same level that you guys are, and I do feel a little bad about that, but I also am very grateful that I got to read it with you guys. I'm very grateful that I have read it finally, and that I can check it off my list. I can confidently say I've read Catcher in the Rye. I've read a commonly banned book. I don't know why it's ever been banned. I don't know why. Is it just the language? Is it the fact that he gets mugged by a prostitute? I don't know.
I think that's probably the biggest part. And
So
I mean, yeah, I think that's probably the biggest reason.
It's not a story that it doesn't follow the hero's journey very well. It's not like a typical. It's not a typical story, and I think that might be why people think it's so important to read. I personally, it's just that just a little too weird, or just a little too different from the kind of stories that I like to read. That it just didn't click with me. That's it. So overall, a decent book. I mean, I understand it's a classic. I couldn't quite understand myself why. And if anybody leaves a comment, please tell me why I'm wrong.
Change my mind.
No, I mean, it's probably just a mentality thing. I mean, I was going on and on when we first started this book. It's like, I was so irritated by the narration and Holden's characterization, and I just had to. I guess over the weeks that we were reading, I just kind of I stopped talking about it. But it's also just like I had to switch gears every time I started reading, because it's like I had to endure this style, which is not a way that I think.
You're right. This is not meant for you, and there's absolutely no need to justify anything. It doesn't mean you're wrong about anything whatsoever. It's just
right. And I'm also not. I'm also trying to say that my opinion is the absolute be all end all opinion. I'm afraid of that being the impression.
No, you will never come off like that.
Good.
When Connor Kelly is on this podcast, Josh, you have nothing. You don't have that to worry about. I promise you.
It's true.
So I'm sure you guys are going to I mean, you guys. This is the second time both of you are reading it, or at least the second time. And so I'm expecting you guys to be far more positive about this book, and which is why I'm kind of glad I'm going first, because I'd rather anyone who decides to listen to us for some awful reason at least end on a positive note with our discussion here. So I also just want to try to vocalize, like, I am happy I read the book. I'm glad that I know the story now. I'm glad that I understand at least the mechanics of it, the plot, the story, the characters. There's just some little tiny thing that I did not get from it that I kind of expected, given how much it's been hyped over my entire life. And I'm mostly disappointed that I couldn't find that myself. So,
yeah.
Overall, I think I'm gonna have to give it just a 5 out of 10. It's low, but honestly, at the beginning of the book, I was thinking, like, oh shit, is my score at the end of this gonna start with a 3?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I think that's a totally fair score for you.
So 5 out of 10. Not for me, but hey, if you want to check it out, absolutely go ahead. It's a banned book. It's a book that's been banned. You should absolutely go read it at some point.
Yeah.
See if you could find it when I couldn't.
And I get your. I don't think frustration's quite the right word, but like that, I know that feeling of coming to something that everyone says is awesome, and then you're like, wait, I'm not really getting that.
Restaurant?
Well, I actually don't think Restaurant counts, because how many people say that book is awesome? Come on. you know,
I mean, people say that about Hitchhikers. I conflate the rest of the Hitchhikers series with Hitchhiker's Guide. So
yeah. No, you're right. So yeah, I mean that's an experience that people are going to have, and not only that, I think when we have different opinions on a book or whatever it is that we're analyzing, to me that's like a lot of times more interesting, and in a lot of ways more valuable. Like,
I guess I feel weird for being the one with the negative opinion on the book for once.
Yeah. Well,
That's not really my
happen.
That's not really
has to happen eventually.
Purview.
Yeah,
it was. But it's happened a bit more frequently because I mean this is the first real big book where I've been negative on it. But I mean, the last thing we read, Legend of Sleepy Hollow, was like, oh, I chose that book, that short story, and I still was like, oh, I did not enjoy this.
And I mean, you weren't too thrilled with Johnny Mnemonic, at least the writing style.
I'm not recalling that, but maybe that's because
You were
I've watched the movie since then.
A bit more critical than usual especially on the writing
Probably.
style of that one. Yeah.
I won't deny it. I'm just not remembering right in this moment because I did watch the movie since then, and we should talk about that at some point in the near future.
Yeah. After we watch all the Catcher in the Rye movies, short films,
the fan films, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Just to ask you real quick, Josh, before we go on to our final thoughts, because Connor was also kind of asking you, did you feel like your thoughts on either Holden as a character or the book, did they change at all? Because you're saying when you were first reading the book, you thought it might be a 3. You're ending on a 5. What is it? Is there something about the book that either did change or you appreciated more as you were reading it, or like is there something about it that like you feel like you did understand better? That's the only other thing I'm wondering. Did anything change for you as you read the book?
I think having the full picture of the story definitely helped. I mean, operating with the first 10 chapters is just not a great way to rate a book. So I was guessing off of incomplete data back then. My view on the book softened for sure. And a lot of that's helped thanks to you guys for just helping point things out that I am oblivious to or just don't pick up given my thought processes. Holden, I never could quite get over his impulsiveness. It's just he never really seemed to change much as a character. Maybe at the very end, but it's a subtle change that we've been discussing that it's hard to know if that's permanent or not, or like a true change, or it's just a moment where I don't know. Is this the start of his change? Is it enough? That's kind of where I don't know. Though I was able to more thoroughly understand what he was saying throughout the book as time went on as well, just as I got used to it, and honestly a bit of dropping Connor in as a stand-in every now and then. That helped from time to time.
Okay. Interesting. Well, thank you
for sharing. It's a handy way to understand the character more.
Yeah, we should just start imagining Connor in all the books we read.
I don't know about all the books, but
can't wait to read The Martian. I'm fucked.
Connor, if it's all the same to you, I figured I could go next and you could close us out.
Yeah, let's take the same thing. Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, so this is my first time coming back to Catcher in the Rye in, something like, 20 years. I don't know, give or take. Not quite that long, but not far away from 2 decades. And as I've been talking about, there's a lot I didn't remember. Almost everything I didn't remember. The only thing I knew is that I had read the book. And it's weird rereading a book like this because I kind of have this feeling like because I don't remember it, I still kind of have the feeling where I'm like, man, imagine reading this book when you're like 15. We keep saying like what an impact that could potentially have on someone at that age. And then I'm like, I did read this book when I was 15, and it didn't have an impact on me. Or at any rate, like, I wasn't really open to that. Very few books had an impact on me until much later in my life. The kinds of art that was impacting me was music, video games, movies. Books were like this weird little thing that, every now and then I would get into a book, or I would have to read a book for school, like Catcher in the Rye, and hey, this one's not that bad. But, for a long time, I kind of felt like my head was turned off, and I was kind of just like walking through life. And so it's sort of weird to read Catcher in the Rye. Like, I feel like now, at the age that I'm at, I'm like, I can see ways in which I was similar to Holden at that time in my life. And I think what's funny about that is, just like how Holden doesn't see how Phoebe's similar to him, I kind of feel like I was reading this book and I was like, what's the big fucking idea? It's just some stupid kid. And it's like, I was the stupid kid too, and I just was not receptive, to this at all. I didn't care. Reading it today, it is funny because this book also has a reputation as being like, these days, kind of like, I don't know, like a Reddit coded, like, oh man, if a guy reads this book, it's cringy kind of deal, just because, because it's all about woe is me, lonerism, and the ways in which that it feels like this book has sort of been, warped into and absorbed by like far right or like manosphere kind of shit. We already talked about that, but like, it's weird that the ways in which The Catcher in the Rye, like, public opinion has changed on it. Because when I was growing up, it did sort of feel like this is the classic book that you're one of the many classic books you're expected to read as part of your education. And now I sort of feel like the idea is like, well, it's kind of weird, it's cringy. Don't read it. Right. People are going to get the wrong idea. All that's to say, I know that I'm starting off like really big picture, not about the book at all, but all that's to say is like, I feel bad. I think Catcher in the Rye does get a bad rap, and I think Holden too. Like, seeing people who were like, oh well, I found him to be really insufferable and this and that. Like, I agree that Holden is like an insufferable kind of person, but like in a way that I have a lot of sympathy for. And I don't know. And it's funny because I feel like this is another book too, I think it also kind of gets an idea or has a reputation of like a book that's like deep if you're 16. And I feel like it's supposed to be the kind of book that like if you come back to it, you're like, oh yeah, I can see how this would have been cool when you were a kid, but like this is just the kind of book you read, it's supposed to crack your mind open at that age and not much else, and I think it does a real disservice to the book because I do think it's complicated and I do think it's simple. And I think it's like those two things together. Like, there's a lot of duality in this story and with these characters. And I think that's kind of what the book is. It's meant to be accessible, yes, to like a younger or adolescent audience, but it's never supposed to be like condescending or simplifying things too much either, and I think it presents things like very honestly, to kids especially, and to show like, I don't know, all the different ways in which, someone's life can go. Like, I feel like all these characters that Holden meets, they're sort of all like weird what if possibilities. One of the biggest things in this book is like, Holden, what do you want to do? You can't just stand in a field and, try to grab kids. You got to do something. We don't ever know what that is or if it happens, obviously. And I think rightfully so. I like that the ending of the book, it gives you like just enough closure to feel like, that the story is told in a satisfying way, and yet, we're not given those clear answers. And I think that's a great move, because if the story ended and it was like, and then Holden got a job as a bank teller, you'd be like, well, I mean, that feels so what? The moral of the story is to let yourself like become molded into a worker bee of society. I mean, like, how do you even end a story like this? That's the thing. And Connor was saying that this is just like a snapshot of someone's life in this moment of time, and it's like, absolutely, you can imagine all the potential sequels to this book, but it would just be a book about someone's life at a different part, down the road. And that's kind of like the beauty and the sort of like enigmatic nature of this book, because usually people's lives exactly as they are like don't make compelling stories naturally. And sure enough, obviously Holden is indeed a fictional character, and this story is indeed crafted to be interesting to a reader. It isn't quote unquote just a snapshot of his life. It's a fucking book, with a beginning and a middle and an end. But yes, it is also written in a very unorthodox way. And leaves you asking a lot of questions without giving you a lot of obvious answers. I think that's why it sticks with a lot of people. It's something that you're meant to ruminate on, and it's something that like, there really isn't an answer to, because the book is so large in its scope and what it's trying to analyze. Like, if you write a book and you're like, oh, I want the book to be about life and how to process loss and how to find your way in a world that you feel separated from, these are all things that if you live long enough you will have to confront. And as you transition from adolescence to adulthood, you come to find that there aren't answers. Sometimes when you're younger, you think like, oh, when I grow up, I'll finally know, I'll get it. And then you get older and you're like, this is such bullshit. There's nothing on the other side. I'm just older than I used to be, but the answers haven't come and the world hasn't changed, And I think that that's one of the biggest things that Salinger's trying to like showcase with this book and like trying to interrogate. It's like, how do you navigate that? How do you even choose what your career is going to be in a world where there's infinite options, and yet you still can't even be the thing that like your heart would choose for you? Because even in a world of infinite options, it's like, no, not that. Not a fucking catcher in the rye in a field, buddy. Sorry. It's like you gotta do something else, because the options are infinite, obviously. All right, I'm gonna wrap up. I love the ideas that this book is tackling, and I really, really love how successfully Salinger like creates Holden. Holden is one of the most like vividly realized characters I've read from a book in a long time. Like, we read through all the Lord of the Rings books, and I think Frodo's an awesome character, but the way that Tolkien writes about Frodo, like, I'm never like reading through those books necessarily and being like, wow, I really feel like I understand Frodo. I don't want to go off into a humongous tangent, but I'm trying to make a comparison here that in a much shorter length of time, I feel like I know Holden 10 times better than I know Frodo. And I think that would go for like any character in any of the books we've read. I feel like I know Holden the best. And yet, because he's a real person or is written in such a compelling way, it still feels like he's at this distance. And that's like what's almost most real about him. You know, it's like you're never going to know everything about him. That's what makes him not feel like just a literary character. It's the things you don't know about him, or it's the things you can't reconcile, or it's the things that seem like they're contradictory. It's the messiness and the hypocrisy and all that of Holden that like makes him feel like a real person and not just someone that someone wrote about in a book. I do have maybe I don't know if I'd go so far as to say is like I have problems with the book. It's just I do think that there's things that could have been done maybe I don't know. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm trying to wrap up here. What I'm trying to say is like I do have like some criticisms, but they're minor. It's not that I think things could have been done better or that the book should be changed, but I think because of like the sort of lucid nature of the plot and the way that it just sort of like progresses seemingly haphazardly and it's like these series of vignettes, I like that, and yet I did always feel like it was building to something and it doesn't happen. I don't think that's a fault of the book. I think that's on me as the reader. It's hard to say what my criticisms of this book are, but I've talked enough. What I can tell you is, given everything I've said, I will give Catcher in the Rye a 7 out of 10.
Sweet. Yeah.
There's something you said at the beginning there about how books were not like a media that you connected to when you were younger. And it just had me thinking, like, what books did I connect with at that age? Like that made your like engage your brain and stuff, or however you phrased it. And I realized that's when I was like the height of when I was getting to Star Wars books.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason that may have happened was because I was reading the X-Wing novels and realized like I could imagine what the X-Wings looked like, and like I could visualize it because of the movies that I had watched before that. So yeah, it's just a little interesting connection that I made while you were going on about that.
No, I hear you though.
Yeah, I think one thing you pointed out about Holden's character and about how it's like such a great it's just great character writing from Salinger. He's like such a fleshed out real person. Like I think that is part of why people love the book so much, but also part of why people dislike or are annoyed by the book so much. You know, it's like he is such a real person. You can't really assign any of your traits or appealing traits to him. Like you can't Frodo. He's not a canvas for you to paint yourself, which I think some characters are, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think that's probably a brilliant thing about Lord of the Rings too. Is not that Frodo is a Mary Sue, but he is a a character that is not super fleshed out in the same way, and you can really kind of give him attributes that are less it's less about what's on the page and more about what's in your head sometimes. As far as this character goes. And then also, I think Josh mentioned too in his rundown was kind of what was like, oh, it doesn't. I think Josh said, oh, it doesn't do a good job of following the hero's journey, and you're like, it's not trying to do that, right? It's not that wasn't the intention. It's yeah, and so what Connor said too was oh, it's building to something. It doesn't feel like it reaches it. It doesn't get which which I think is just a like for me like this. And I'm not saying that this is the case for you, but for me the story is not all about the climax or the goal. It's like um I think I just appreciate stories that don't follow that structure more than you guys do. Not the an ending that is wrapped up and is built towards that can be super satisfying and awesome. And there's a reason why that structure is so prevalent and popular. Of course, but yeah, I mean, I think those two things are like two of the reasons why I love this book so much. And reading it again after so long, yeah, I mean, made me appreciate just how great JD Salinger is, and it made me really want to add some of his other works, his short stories especially, onto my list. I just think he's a very like singular voice. He's just got a very unique style, one that resonates a lot with me. And Connor said too, like Holden is this kind of is known as kind of like this teenage caricature, and the common wisdom is like, oh yeah, you'll relate to it as a kid, and then maybe look back on it and be like, oh, it's kind of lame or whatever. But I do think I appreciated it more this time because um I yeah, I just don't think I was ready to. I related to all of it, for sure. But I mean, the reason I read it in the first place was because of Green Day and MCR and their influence. And I mean, just like those bands, though, it's it feels like uh, it resonates more now that I kind of can put it in, like I can kind of zoom out and have kind of a bit of a bigger picture. Um, and see where it all lands. I think Holden is unfortunately still an extremely relatable character to me, and I really really appreciate spending time with him. And going through these few days with him, kind of uh, walking himself slowly off a cliff until he's pulled back at the end, until he's caught at the end. Uh, so yeah, I just kind of it made me remember why I really loved it in the first place. Yeah, and especially towards the end, like it was very emotionally resonant to me. When it comes to like family and um the sentimentality between siblings, and uh, just this feeling of being lost, as a fellow lost boy. I don't think it'll ever not hit me in the heart. So I think I'm gonna have to give it a 9. I think I give it a 9 out of 10.
All right. Oops. Cool. So yeah, that's 9 out of 10 from Connor, 7 out of 10 from Connor, and a 5 out of 10 from me for an overall average score of 70%.
Sweet.
Puts it above Sleepy Hollow, Odyssey 2, and I think Young Safe Pod Plays It Safe. Sorry, I guess my score dragged it down there.
No, it's not really a competition in that way. It's just interesting.
It's not. It's just
see where it all
just a fun little
falls.
metric.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, Hey, we might have been off by just a week, but even that is pretty damn good for us.
Yeah.
I think, should commend ourselves for going through and discussing this book as quickly as we did, because it kind of feels to me like, oh wow, we're already, our next episode, presumably we're going to be voting on our next book. So
Yep.
And talking
we're
about
just-
Catcher in the Rye short films.
that's right. Which we will figure that out off the pod, but
Yeah.
come on, we gotta watch at least one, right?
We
Josh?
gotta watch. We gotta check out what's out there, and I mean, maybe a couple, but at least one. Sorry, Josh.
I'd rather discuss Johnny Mnemonic's movie, but
Josh, I have not watched that. We did not watch it.
you broke up there actually for me.
Only you watched it, Josh. Neither of us
I know.
have watched it.
I know. I'm saying you guys should watch it so we can discuss it. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think maybe in the future, but Catcher in the Rye is what we're talking about now. So I think it would be more interesting to and I mean, watching what a fan film or what like an independent
I think that might go against
authorized.
I think that might go against Salinger's creative vision for the book, since he never wanted it to be made.
He's dead, so who gives a shit? I think it would be fun to watch what's out there.
Yeah, he's a manipulative old bastard.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
He's an asshole, anyways. Well, what's actually funny, what's really funny is that Holden's thought about living in a cabin like in seclusion for the rest of his life is what Salinger did.
Yeah,
like that is what he maybe he was a deaf mute or pretended to be a deaf mute too. Who knows? But but that is really funny.
That reminds me, because I have this copy here. I think according to my book, I'm like still sort of surprised when I look at it, but according to what I have, this is a copy that was published in 1951. So,
really,
yeah, it says, when I go to the copyright page, it just says it says copyright 1945, 46, and 51.
Check all the way at the bottom. My book says printing 47, 2025. At, like, third line from the bottom. Does yours have anything like that?
No, mine doesn't. I'll send you a picture of it after. Mine doesn't.
Okay.
At any rate, so I'm on the dust jacket. It does talk a little bit about Salinger himself, and I was intrigued by some of the overlap between him and Holden, because it says JD Salinger was born in New York City in 1919 and attended Manhattan Public Schools, a military academy in Pennsylvania, and 3 colleges, no degrees. A happy tourist year in Europe, he writes, when I was 18 and 19, in the Army from 42 to 46, most of the time with the 4th Division. I've been writing since I was 15 or so. My short stories have appeared in a number of magazines over the last 10 years, mostly and most happily in the New Yorker. And this last line, though, is what I wanted to talk about. I worked on The Catcher in the Rye on and off for 10 years. So this book is the product of a decade of his life, on and off, as he says. And yeah, it's just kind of funny. He went to military school in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So
Holden, something to think about for the story I'm working on, but
that's where Holden's going.
Salinger and Holden, you can't really separate them. Yeah.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's a little bit. I mean, obviously, that's just par for the course with authors, and when you write a story that's this based on one character and their inner monologue, but it's like, I mean, is this the greatest analog we've read so far between author and character? Do you think?
I might push back on that, because I do think Tolkien's a great example. Him and Bilbo.
Okay, yeah.
And Tolkien has quotes where he says, like, I am a hobbit in everything but size. Like, he wrote the hobbits to be him. And
I think there's also, I mean, I guess you could make that argument for most of these authors, but I mean, didn't Frank Herbert work on Dune for a while too before it was
Yeah,
published? Yeah.
yeah. That's. I mean, I think for a lot of like older works, and again, so we keep bringing up Tolkien. We talked about how long. I mean, like decades.
Yeah.
Depending on how you want to talk about him working on it, decades for him, and it seems like it's a more recent phenomenon for people to just like, oh yeah, I wrote a book in 2 years, because they're pretty much like pumping out whatever romantasy, or not shit on anything specifically, because romantasy is not the culprit. That's not the problem.
Creature smut.
But
that's the new fad, right?
Oh my god, don't kill me at the end of this podcast, dude. But I think that was like more of the norm, is like you write a book, it's this huge undertaking. And I think now it's kind of become, a little more, I don't know,
industrial.
Yes. Yeah.
And there was a big thing back in those days where you would publish like a few chapters in a literary magazine, and then like before publishing the full novel. Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, it's just a different landscape, and I think that led to people writing books differently, and even like what the expected time frame was for writing a book. Obviously people do still take 10 years to write a book. I'm sure they do, but
paging George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, I was about to say, don't people shit on R.R. Martin a lot?
Yes. Yep.
For exactly that. Anyway.
Yeah, but given the grand tradition of other authors, he's right on time. Got the guys in slack.
Pushing it.
George Rock and Roll Martin.
All right. Well, folks, that's been the Chapter Chumps discussion of The Catcher in the Rye.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Be sure to tune into our Behind the Pages episode, or Between the Pages episode. I want to start calling them that, where we vote on what we're going to be reading next. Stay tuned.
Between the Pages, election night in Chump Nation.
Parentheses. We're also going to be talking about a Catcher in the Rye fan film?
Catcher in the Rye fan film.
Close parentheses.
Ellipses. No, not really.
Well, we'll do next week. We'll do a couple of fan films. The week after that, we'll do our voting. The week after that, we'll do Johnny.
Yeah. Actually, that'll be perfect for us to do our voting in 2 weeks, because they'll be right
strike
around
that. Flip it.
Yeah, we should really do our voting first week in November. Let's do it.
All right, voting first week of December. Perfect. No. All right. Yeah. Thanks for listening, folks. If you like what you heard and you want to give us a little boost, go on over to Apple Podcasts and give us a 5-star rating as well as a glowing review. That would be much appreciated. You can follow us on social media. We are on Twitter at Chapter Chumps, as well as on Blue Sky at Chapter Chumps.
The better
platform. Whichever social media is your preference, give us a follow. You will not regret it. Obviously, our Twitter is mostly just like rage bait posts, and Blue Sky is like more actual information about our podcast. I think that's about it. Next week we'll talk about 5 different YouTube Catcher in the Rye short films.
No.
Looking forward to it.
But most importantly, folks, until next time.
Rat dog.
Rat dog. Alone or a will and a rat dog. All right. Chumps out.